episode 243 of the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. Order in the court. Let's start the show.
We are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity.
You and I, as citizens, have the obligation to shape the debates of our time, not only with the votes we cast, but with the voices we lift.
The people are looking for honest answers, not easy answers.
The very word secrecy is repugnant.
Clear leadership.
And we are, as a people,
not false claims and evasiveness and politics as usual.
Opposed to secret society.
But ours was a nation of the ballot, not the bullet.
And a secret procedure.
As a people, we cannot afford to let any group of citizens or any individual citizen live or labor under conditions which are injurious to the common welfare.
Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, young, old, gay, straight, men, women, folks with disabilities, all pledging allegiance under the same proud flag to this big, bold country that we love. That's what I see. That's the America I know.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Welcome to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast. I am your host, Chris Hahn. Thank you for liking, rating, reviewing, subscribing, telling your friends about the podcast. Really makes a difference. Truly appreciate it. Oh my God. The trial has begun. The coverage. I think the networks think it's more complicated than it is. So they got their 12 members of the jury. And it didn't take them 6 weeks, as the media was projecting, in Donald Trump's hush money, sex with a porn star cover-up trial happening in New York. How you doing? How you like explaining why he's on trial if you're a supporter of Trump's? How are you enjoying that? Let's say you were somebody who really didn't like Bill Clinton for his dalliances, including one that I think is intolerable, his affair with an intern. I think that, as we look back on that right now, it was very much problematic. But there were a lot of people out there that thought he was the devil, couldn't be trusted, and they said, "What are we going to tell our children about this?" Well, what are you telling your children about this? I guess they'd be your grandchildren now. What are you telling your grandchildren? Or even your children, if you are a younger, ultra-right conservative, particularly a religious conservative. What are you telling your children about Donald Trump today? Are you saying he's on trial for sex with a porn star, that he paid her to keep her mouth shut and violated laws? Are you talking about it with your kids? I mean, what do you tell your children? Maybe you could ask the next host that comes on that, maybe is supporting him. And I'm sure, chances are, given my markets, one of the next people you hear on these stations are going to be supporting Donald Trump. You might be listening to me on a podcast, in which case I'll be saying other things. But I encourage you to call up into these conservative talk shows who always like to talk about Christ's role in government. I highly encourage you to ask them what they think about what's going on right now. And what are they going to tell their kids? I should call up. I should use a fake voice and say, "Hi, this is John from Garden City. I'm just wondering, how do we talk to our children about the fact that our savior, Donald Trump, is on trial because he had sex with a porn star and paid her to cover it up and mismanaged the way he paid her?" Well, I'd love to get the response. I mean, I just would love it. I mean, they'd probably hang up on me, right? They'd probably say, "Well, we're not going to talk about that. Don't tell your children about it. Your kids shouldn't be paying attention to this because it's fake news." Well, it's not fake news. Donald Trump does not deny his affair with Stormy Daniels. And I am looking forward to this trial starting. And Stormy Daniels coming out and addressing the press. Trump's been coming out and addressing the press every day, whining and complaining like the whiny little bee he is. I can't wait till Stormy comes out and talks about her testimony and rehashes her experience with Donald Trump for the entire world to see. Now, if you're one of those people who's got their chest pumped out saying, this is going to help Trump, I'm telling you right now, it will not, and it has not. Joe Biden has gained in the polls. Donald Trump has fallen in the polls. These are facts. Same polls he was touting a couple of weeks ago have him down. Look it up. I am telling you right now, what we are experiencing is not going to be good for him. So whatever the guy coming on after me says, unless it's me, of course, I know sometimes I put these in my podcasts. You tell them that they're wrong because they are. Now, here's the other thing, and maybe I'll talk about this on the other side of the break a little bit more. Donald Trump is behaving in a way that would have any other defendant thrown in jail for contempt of court. And there's going to be a hearing on Tuesday. The prosecutors are saying that Trump has violated the contempt order. I'm telling you right now, he has. It's just a question of what you do about it when the guy's the former president of the United States. I think you put him in jail for like 3 hours. Put him in timeout. Take his phone away and put him in jail for 3 or 4 hours. See what happens. I mean, maybe he'll shut up the rest of the way. Anybody else would be spending the night. Trust me, they would. They'd be spending the night in jail. I don't think a $5,000 fine is gonna matter to Trump. Maybe make it a $5 million fine, because I think that would matter to Trump, because I don't know how much cash he has on hand. Okay? I just don't. He had to borrow for his bond, so just keep that in mind. His bond he had to put up in the other case he was found guilty in, or libel in. I'm just saying, America, this is the chaos that Donald Trump is, and I don't think we want any more of it. I think we want to put this guy behind us, and I think we're going to. Listen to this. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Chris Hahn, as the man just told you, at Christopher Hahn on X, Christopher Hahn NY on Instagram, and ChristopherHahn.com. Those are my socials if you want to check me out there. And of course, watch me on News Nation. I'm on all the time. If you follow me on social media, most of the time I post a shirt and tie a couple of minutes before I come on the air. So if you're happen to looking at your social media, you could turn on News Nation. It's on every cable system in America, and you could stream it too on just about every streaming service. So check me out on News Nation. It is news for all Americans. So just putting a button on Trump on trial, don't think it's good for him. He's not campaigning. Joe Biden's out on the campaign trail talking about issues that matter to working class Americans. He's talking about tax reform. He's talking about abortion. He's talking about things that matter. Donald Trump, on the other hand, is whining about how he's being treated in court every single day. You tell me how that's good for him, how the comparison is normal. Joe Biden's doing things a normal president would do, or a normal person running for president would do. Donald Trump is standing in front of a courthouse, for some reason showing you printouts of positive press that somebody on his staff handed him. He's like, I haven't seen any negative. I haven't seen anything that says this is a fair trial. That's because your staff isn't giving you anything that would make you angry, because you're a big baby. You're a man child. You think that the person following you around with a printer printing out good news for you is going to give you something that's going to make you angry? You probably throw it at them. They're not doing that. Nobody tells you the truth anymore, Donald. Nobody's ever really told you the truth. You should listen to me more often, because I'll tell you the truth. Okay, I'll tell you the truth as I see it every single day. But, here's another piece of truth about Donald Trump. Everybody's trying to say that Biden is blocking presidential debates from happening. Nothing could be further from the truth. Last year, the RNC pulled out on the Commission for Presidential Debates, which has been in existence for decades and plans out the presidential debates. The RNC has decided that they're not going to be part of it anymore. Donald Trump has said anytime, any place. Well, what does that mean? We're just going to have a debate and everybody could shout at each other all the time. And I've talked about this before. I'm not for shouting match debates. That's what pundits do. It's what I do right here sometimes, right? No, people seeking the highest office in the land, people who want to become the leader of the free world should have a civilized conversation about issues that are important to America and point out their differences so that the American people could get a real understanding of where they are on the issues. And the way you do that is the campaigns and the parties agree on the rules. Well, Donald Trump's out there saying anytime, any place, but he won't participate in the Commission for Presidential Debates. Now, his daughter-in-law heads the RNC. He can easily have her rejoin the Commission for the Presidential Debates. Instead, he's out there saying, I want to debate anytime, any place. That's akin to like somebody who wants to fight, who pretends they want to fight. And he has their friends holding them back. Hold me back, buddy. Hold me back. No, you don't really want to fight. Trump doesn't really want to debate. He's a coward saying, hold me back. Because if he really wanted to debate, he would plan for a debate. He would have his people participate in the negotiation for how we're going to debate. I have said before, and I'll say it again, one podium, one microphone, and I want long answers. I don't want no 90-second BS that they've been doing the last 10 years, 12 years, more 20 years. I want them to speak for 10 minutes on a topic and then let the other guy speak for 10 minutes on the same topic. But one mic, one podium, one camera in a studio with no audience. Because we don't need to hear the audience. I don't care who's clapping. The only people who are clapping are the people you brought there. The audience is going to be the most politically charged people in the world. The campaigns get tickets. And whoever brings the rowdiest crew is the one who wins the audience. And that doesn't matter. It's just cheap for pundits to talk about. One podium, one microphone, one camera. No hotshot anchor asking the questions. Find the most boring person in the world to ask the questions, to throw out the topic, and let these guys talk. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Or maybe give them, an hour each and say, what amount of time would you like to spend on this topic? Right? Let's say, you're going to give them 7 topics and they have an hour. And okay, we're going to talk about immigration. Donald Trump might want 15 minutes. Joe Biden might want 10. Or we're going to talk about tax reform. Biden might want 15 minutes on that. Donald Trump will just talk for 5 minutes about his tax cuts. Who knows? But whatever it is, what we've been doing doesn't seem like a debate. But if Donald Trump really wants to do it, if he's not just being a little baby who's out there saying, hold me back, I want to fight, but this guy won't do it. No. Let go. Tell your daughter-in-law to rejoin the commission and plan out for how we're going to have debates. If you really want to do it, Donald. I don't think you do, because you're not that smart. And here's the other thing. Your whole campaign is going to be centered around Joe Biden's age. And when Joe Biden shows up ready to debate, it's going to take a lot of wind out of your sails. So I say debate. I say debate a couple of times. I say give them long forms, one microphone, one podium, one camera in a dark studio where there's no audience. And a really boring moderator. That means not me. I can't moderate. Somebody really, really boring. As boring a person you could find on the planet. I don't know, is Ben Stein still around? Have him do it. Well, listen to this. I'll be right back. They got through opening statements at the Trump trial. I was watching some of the coverage today, and I thought it was kind of funny, the play-by-play that's going on. The networks have reporters in the courtroom. They're not allowed to have cameras in the courtroom in New York, which is, ridiculous in my opinion. We should have cameras wherever there are public officials conducting public business, right? When there's a meeting that is a sanctioned public meeting and courts are open to the public, you should have a camera in there so people can watch them. It's the modern era. Now, I know the whole argument that, well, if you have cameras in the courtroom, they'll become, performance art pieces and nobody will want to serve on a jury, and you'll have judges who are acting like Lance Ito, who was the OJ judge, and everybody knew about his clocks and his clock collection. And every day there was a new clock on his dais. I get that. Maybe you put a little guardrails around it. Maybe you only have the camera pointed where the lawyers are speaking. I don't think you should ever have the cameras pointed at the jury. I think that would be something that could be avoided as well. But I think having cameras in the courtroom, its time has come. It's happening all over the country. It hasn't disrupted jurisprudence for the most part all over the country. And I know in a big trial like this, everybody's interested. We all would be watching, or at least be watching the highlights at the end of the day. Instead, what you have is reporters sending text messages to anchors who are then reading the text messages as a play-by-play. It was kind of comical, if you ask me. They were going through the opening statements and they were, reading little snippets that were being sent by their reporters in the room. And then, of course, they called David Pecker as their first witness. It'll be an interesting couple of weeks with this trial. My main concern, though, is that it is going to distract from some real issues that we should be talking about. Issues like states like Arizona putting in these extreme anti-choice laws. The Supreme Court in Arizona said that a law from the 1860s is valid. The legislature was still in session. Democrats tried to bring a measure to the floor to void that 1860 law. Republicans wouldn't let that go. So, and by the way, they only needed one or two of them to go along with them. They didn't need the majority of Republicans. They needed one or two Republican votes to bring it to a vote, because the Arizona legislature is very evenly split. And next year it'll be controlled by Democrats, right? Because I don't think people in Arizona are going to let this stand. But here's what you should take away from that. No matter what they say about their positions on choice, their goal is to make abortion illegal everywhere, in every state, in every province. By the way, all over the world, they want to take away a woman's right to choose. They want to take medical decisions out of the hands of doctors and their patients and into the hands of the state. Republicans think that a woman's body is property of the state, and we see this happening all over the country. And even after they're given an opportunity to walk back some of their more extreme laws, I mean, they already have a 15-week ban in Arizona before the court took this measure up. Now they have an absolute ban. And they want to take those choices away from women and their doctors. We saw what happened in Texas, right? They'll all talk about their exceptions for rape and incest and the life of the mother. Well, they have those exceptions in Texas, and a woman had to flee for her life to get life-saving health care. Forget about calling it an abortion. It was life-saving health care. This woman could have died. And the Texas Attorney General said, not on my watch, you die or you get incredibly close to death before I will give permission to the doctors. God forbid, Ken Paxton's playing golf when the call comes in that this woman's near death. She just dropped dead. She should be, her health care should be subject to the schedule of Ken Paxton. I mean, that's what's going on here in America. Republicans for years, and maybe not all Republicans, I know there are a lot of pro-choice Republicans out there, but anti-choice conservatives across this country have for years painted a picture that abortion is birth control by other means. And that is clearly not the case, particularly abortions that happen later in the terms of the pregnancy. They are tragedies that require emergency health care for women who might die if they don't receive it. But that doesn't stop them from demagoguing. And that's why I think it's going to be a very important issue this November. And while we're watching this trial and seeing what's going on there, we can't forget about that too, because that is also a very important thing to watch. Listen to this. I'll be right back. There's a lot of old man stuff going on at this trial. If you believe the reports, and I do believe. I believe when Maggie Haberman says that Donald Trump fell asleep during jury selection, I truly believe it. We're hearing that Trump may have passed wind in the court. I was going to say in the church, like a fart in church, goes over like a fart in church. Now I get it. You're sitting there for 8 hours. You've eaten probably a taco salad for lunch, knowing Donald Trump, or KFC. I don't know how you sit in that courtroom for 4 hours at a time without a break and not have some digestive issues going on, especially when you're almost 80, like Donald Trump is. I've been there. I think we've all been there. But of course, I haven't been trapped in a courtroom where I can't just get up and excuse myself for a minute and go use the facilities. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with it other than the fact that he's disturbing his neighbors. But these will not be the first Trump attorneys to have to deal with some ill-timed gaseous activity. We do recall Jenna Ellis having to sit through many a hearing with Rudy Giuliani, breaking wind often. We actually saw, there's some good video of it. You should look it up. The look on her face is priceless. But, the falling asleep, Sleepy Don, I think it's telling. When the man was president, he would not start his day before 10 a.m., and he would have tons of what they called executive time on his calendar, where he did nothing. Nobody knew what he did. Maybe he watched TV, drank a Diet Coke. I don't know. I don't care. But I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up because this is a man who has based his campaign on the fact, in part, on the fact that Joe Biden is too old to be president. And if you look at the polls, the only reason people, the only reason Donald Trump has any chance of winning in November is because people think that Joe Biden is too old. And I have said before, maybe that's a good argument if the Republican nominee had been Nikki Haley, right? Who's a woman who's 52 years old, clearly in the prime of her life. But we have the Republican nominee is not only on the back nine, he's on hole nine. He's going to be in the clubhouse pretty soon. And he's right there with Joe Biden. And when it comes to age, and if you see the difference between these two guys, Joe Biden is running around the country talking about kitchen table issues, talking about creating jobs. And Donald Trump is falling asleep and breaking wind in a New York City courtroom. And when he comes out to talk to the press, he doesn't talk about issues that matter to you or to me or to anyone else other than himself. I know I sound like a broken record. I don't know how this helps him. Now, some say, well, what if there's a hung jury? Well, if there's a hung jury, there's a hung jury. The man is spending 4 weeks of his life locked in a courtroom, not able to leave, not able to, even get up to go to the bathroom when he needs to. Meanwhile, his opponent is campaigning. He's running an active campaign. I don't see a lot of executive time on Joe Biden's schedule, right? I don't see Joe Biden skipping events because it's raining, right? I mean, could you imagine? I know I got some listeners in North Carolina. Could you imagine if you drove hours to the Trump rally last weekend in North Carolina and only to have him basically minutes before the event's supposed to start say it's canceled because it rained? It was raining. It wasn't raining yet. I mean, it definitely looked ominous. Don't get me wrong. It looked ominous. I wonder if that's the real reason. I mean, Taylor Swift performed in the rain. The Kansas City Chiefs played the Miami Dolphins, and it was like negative 10 degrees. 55,000 people showed up to watch the game. Some of them, unfortunately, got frostbite, and they probably should have been paying closer attention. But, people do things in extreme weather all the time. Big events continue. I was at Woodstock in 1994, and it rained on me. We all know that it rained in the original Woodstock. But I guess you can't have a Trump rally in the rain. I guess a little bit of rain is too much for him. Why didn't he just take out his Sharpie and change on the weather map where that rain was going to be? Because we all know that he loves to adjust weather maps with a Sharpie. I'm just pointing this out. The man is acting like he might be too old for this job, right? You know who decides not to come out and play in the rain? Guys in their 80s. That's who decides not to. Old men. And he is acting like an old man, falling asleep when he shouldn't fall asleep, passing gas where he shouldn't be passing gas, and canceling events because there's a little bit of rain. Poor Donald. I don't see a 50-year-old with the fire in their belly canceling a rally because it's raining. Donald Trump doesn't have the fire in his belly anymore. I don't think he's doing this for you. I think he's doing this for him. I think he thinks this is the only way he stays out of prison. As I've said before, Donald, I'd lobby to keep you out of prison if you just get out of the race. I would. And maybe John Oliver could throw in that Winnebago that Clarence Thomas didn't take. I think he should keep that offer open forever. I mean, at least another month. I think the world would be a much better place without either of those two guys in it. I don't feel he needs to go to jail. I don't think he ever will go to jail. I know he's concerned about it. But if he's willing to get out of the race, pardons all around. Call Letitia James. Get rid of the judgment in New York. Just figure it out. Let him go play golf in Scotland or New Jersey or Miami for the rest of his life and leave us all alone. Sound like a plan? I just think that makes sense for all of us. And I think we should be thinking of it that way too. But I unfortunately, that's not going to be our lot in life. We're going to have to go through this very contentious election year. We're going to have to keep sane. And we're going to have to keep working. And we're going to have to defeat him at the ballot box. For those of you out there who listen to me who are hoping for some miracle that some judge is going to throw him in prison and that he won't be able to run, you are going to be very disappointed. It is as likely that he gets a hung jury in New York as any other outcome. It only takes one. It only takes one person to say, I don't know. I have no doubt that he did what he's accused of. He has no doubt about it. He again, the arguments he makes is never that he didn't do it. The arguments he makes is that he shouldn't be held accountable for it because he was president. That's a stupid argument. Supreme Court's going to hear that argument this week. And they are going to rule 9-0 that it's a stupid argument. And if it's 8-2 because Thomas and Alito decide that they're going to just be blatantly partisan, maybe we should be, really considering changes to the Supreme Court, like term limits, something else. We need a constitutional amendment to do it, but we should get working on it. Because, what's going on there right now is not something that is sustainable for this country, sustainable for democracy. They are obsessed with unpopular opinions. They are obsessed with arcane thinking. And there are too many people who are obsessed with partisanship, and I don't want anything to do with that anymore. I'm sure you don't either. All right. I think you've all had enough of me for 1 week, and I really do appreciate you continuing to support the podcast. And I'm going to remind you now, as I always do, to seek the truth. Question everyone and everything, even me. Seek the truth. I know it's out there, and I know you'll find it if you look for it. And I'll be back here again next week to tell you the truth as I see it. I'm Chris Hahn. Thanks for listening to the Aggressive Progressive Podcast.